Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, bon après-midi, bonsoir. It's certainly a pleasure to be here with you. I've had the pleasure of traveling to many of your countries, and it's really nice to see you here in Toronto, Canada. Just as an indication of my knowledge of your countries, I'll just let you know that I've asked the conference organizers here to turn up the heat in the room because it's much warmer in Africa, right? And we want to make sure that we offer you a very warm reception here. So hopefully it'll warm up. Let me see. So I'm here to share with you some of my experiences in working in a number of countries around the world, and in particular with TFO Canada. The title of our session is Access to Canadian Markets, and this is one of the ways in which we have helped, in particular, businesswomen in the past from Africa and other countries to access not only the Canadian market, but learn how to do business internationally. But before I go into my full presentation, I'd just like to share with you how I got started, and perhaps some of you can identify with this. When I was in grade 12 secondary school, my guidance counselor, when I was looking for advice in grade 12, she said, well, as a woman, you will have three main career options in your life. One is to be a teacher. The other is to be a nurse. Can you guess the third? A secretary, of course. So I can tell you can identify with that. So what did I decide to do? Any ideas? I became a global entrepreneur. As many of you, I'm sure, have and will continue to do. Now, I didn't set out that way, and I guess the message here is just to always be open to opportunities. Try to articulate your vision and navigate your way to get there. In my case, I've been to over 50 countries in the past 25 years. I am a certified international trade professional with the organization in Canada called FIT, the Forum for International Trade Training. And I've had the pleasure of working with TFO Canada for about 12 years now, I guess it is, Brian. And quite often, if you see my business card, I don't always hand out my own Global Links Network card. I hand out the TFO card because we have been close partners for a long time. So a lot of people say to me, gee, Diane, you've been to over 50 countries and all of these projects, your organization must have, dozens of employees. And I say, well, can you think how many employees there are in my organization? Just one. And that is the way that business is done today, I think, in a lot of cases. Entrepreneurship is alive and well and growing, but you can't do it on your own. It's through partnerships. So I subcontract, or TFO and other organizations subcontract to me. I subcontract to people who work with me. Together we look like a large organization, and more importantly, we're able to focus on our core expertise. And, that's certainly something that I would recommend that you consider. We've talked a lot about exporting products today, but there is such growth in the export of services. And please take that back home to your countries to talk to the engineers and the accountants and the architects and the marketing specialists and the educators, because they can all export their services. And if you want to know more about that, by all means do contact me and we'll see if we can share some information with you. So some of the export training programs in 40 countries, all kinds of, on all continents really. Some have been export programs in exporting goods, some in exporting services. Here is a photo that, as I was looking through some of my archives of photos, back in, I'm pretty sure it was March 2001, my first training session in Africa. And I don't know if you can see the photo very well. Is there anything peculiar about it? Yes, very male-dominated. We told them that we wanted to come and deliver a training session on exporting, and the Export Promotion Bureau invited 21 men, and the two trainers were two Canadian women. Oh, there is another woman there, if you see. She was the secretary who made sure that all registrations were taking place. So happy to report that that is the one and only time that this happened, because things have evolved since then, and this is the reason. And I think someone this morning mentioned some of these statistics. Women own 1% of the world's wealth. They have a 10% share in global income and occupy only 14% of leadership positions in both private and public sector. 1.4 billion people living on less than $1 a day, 70% are women and girls. Women do 2/3 of the world's work, but earn only 10% of the income. Women produce half of the world's food, but own only 1% of its land. Of the almost 900 million adults worldwide who can't read or write, 2/3 are women. Helping women to export really helps to empower them, and we've found that when they are generating their own income, the money goes to health, education, their families, and the money is well used. So that's why you're seeing a lot of programs that are evolving now that are focused on business women. Now, women entrepreneurs around the world all face the same challenges. And in the case of exporters, access to information, access to markets, access to financing, access to information technology, that's either access to or knowing how to best use. But in addition, women have, there's a lack of business and professional skills. So some of the training that we've done has helped them in building confidence, managing time, building their profile and credibility, setting goals, networking, etc. So it's usually when there are training sessions done, you need to roll that in as well. Brian mentioned briefly this program that we worked on together, Access for Business Women in International Trade. It was funded by the Canadian International Development Agency back in 2004 to 2007. And there were 12 participating countries where we delivered training to 50 trainers who then went and trained over 500 business women in how to export. You can see the countries listed there: Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Mali, Senegal, Tunisia, Ghana, Ethiopia, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and I think Mozambique was added to that. And so in any case, these trainers are there in those countries still today. You may be able to find them through that website, womenexporters.com, which leads to the ITC's website, International Trade Center. But if you are interested in connecting with them, I would be happy to try to connect you. These are women who have been trained on delivering export training. And there's a group that we separated the sessions, one group for Francophone Africa, one group for Anglophone Africa. Can you guess if this is Oh, I've got it right up there. Oh, well. Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, and Tunisia. So this, we did a full 2 weeks of training. They did practice role-playing and really became engaged. And I'm sure they'd be happy to connect with you and still have services to offer. I'd like to change continents now for a moment, just talk to you about a success story that we have experienced in Indonesia. It's a partnership between TFO Canada and the Indonesia Export Training Center in Jakarta, but that have regional offices. So this was from 2009 to 2011. And they had a very well-established training center with classrooms, and they were doing export training, but mostly in the technical aspects, transportation, logistics, letters of credit, market research. And our program, the objective was to work with business women. And they already had business women in their training, but it wasn't being as effective as it could. And the minister was asking, well, how many exporters do we have? And the staff, the management team, was not able to answer that question. So when we went in, we said we're going to modify the program to make it more women-friendly and adapt it according to the needs of Indonesia. So the result was that we did train-the-trainer sessions over 2 years and trained 50 trainers and coaches in English, because I do not speak Bahasa, just a few words, not enough, unfortunately, and their lead trainers then interpret it and translate it. There are over 100 new companies every year in 4 regions being trained, and I think this speaks to sustainability. When we put together a program, we need to make sure that it will continue to grow and continue to reproduce. This is the story I'll tell you a little bit more about, because there's some tools and templates and ideas that you might be able to use in your meetings. Women always ask, where do I start? I have this wonderful product and I'd like to export it. Where do I start? So some of the questions we ask them, or they ask themselves, do I have a marketable product or service? How do I find opportunities? How do I find importers? Who can help? When should I go to my target market? Many of them go to their target market without being prepared. They spend all of the money that they have, and unfortunately it's not bearing fruit. So they have to wait another 5 years until they can be better prepared and have the funding available. So in the training that we have done, we have used 3 primary learning methodologies. Training, classroom training, much like it is today, you are sitting in your seats being very passive, which is really great, hopefully taking notes and hopefully getting back to your offices next week to put some things into action. But over and above the training, we found that roundtable discussions on certain topics are very, very effective. And so we pick specific topics, and the participants learn from each other through these roundtable discussions. And then we do individual coaching, and that is where the most benefit is derived, because the participant is being very proactive. So a little bit on coaching, starting at the bottom there. The coach's objective is to listen to the challenges that the exporter will articulate, and then the coach guides towards options, and the coach motivates towards action. In most countries that I've been to, everyone says that everyone is excited about it, but they do not implement. So getting to results, that is one of the key messages here. So the main difference between training and coaching is that in the case of training, it's the trainer who sets the agenda. I'm the one who decides what I was going to say here today. In coaching, it is the trainee, it's the exporter's needs that drive the agenda. So that means they will be a much more active listener. And we encourage them to come up with specific opportunities and focus them on achieving results. So it's not as effective from a cost perspective, because, to have 200 people in the room here today, we can get our job done in one day. But to coach one-on-one takes a longer period of time. So that's a consideration. Probably the most successful set of tools that we've developed is in developing a structure. And in this case, we have the 3 stages of export preparation. With stage 1, where the company prepares their business. Do they have export potential, for starters? Then we do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, to help them better understand where they can guide their business. And then we have them start on an international business plan. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Stage 2 is market development. Once they know enough about themselves, now they can go to investigate the market, do some market research, develop a strategy, develop their promotional materials. Then stage 3, market entry, actually targeting a specific opportunity and going to the market, how to complete the sale, contracting, negotiating, and transportation and logistics. Now, there are many ways that over 1 year you can take exporters through this process, or you can condense it into, a concise 1 month. But these are the steps that we found that exporters respond to best. So just quickly, stage 1, preparing the business, doing the SWOT analysis. We sit down with them and help them go through this process. The coaches now have learned how to do this, and most importantly, to develop a SWOT action plan. It's not enough to just look at what are the strengths and weaknesses, what are we going to do about this? and the all-important International Business Plan, which is a living, breathing document that grows as the company grows. It's difficult to get people who are not accustomed to writing things. Africans are a people person. They love to interact. They love to talk. I'm doing a lot of work in the Caribbean right now. Same thing, a lot of talking and dialoguing, but we see a real difference when people put words to paper and make a plan and follow that plan. And this is just one of the tools that we use for coaching. It's up to the exporter to determine where it is they want to go, what they want to talk about with their coach. So eventually we even have them color the little boxes, and that gives them a sense of accomplishment that they've completed that section. Stage 2 market development is about market research. Brian mentioned the wealth of resources that are on the TFO website, and I strongly encourage you to have a look at what's available there. We talk about the 5 Ps of international marketing. Most people are accustomed to 4 Ps, but we've added the P for people because isn't that one of the most important Ps of marketing? And then we talk about promotional materials. There are checklists, and again, it helps the coach to direct the discussion with the exporter. We talk to them about networking. Many companies cannot succinctly describe what it is they do, so we have role-playing and exercises for that. Strategies for establishing credibility, especially important for women, having testimonials, being comfortable in delivering presentations, making sure that their qualifications are front and foremost on their promotional material, if they've won awards, to make that known. So we talk to them about that as well. Using the media, taking advantage of any success story or attending a conference even. It's important to spread the word and to be creative. And finally, with stage 3, market entry, we talk to them about working with a foreign partner. We go through exercises on export pricing checklists, or using a checklist for export pricing, and we look at participating in trade fairs. Now, not only what you do once you're at the trade fair, and I've met so many African women who are preparing for a trade fair, and what they do is fill up their suitcases with the merchandise, right? So they go over to the trade fair, and they're so happy because they're selling everything that's in their suitcases. But what has happened? The importers and the distributors are walking by because they're so busy, selling the $10 item that they're missing the big opportunity. So we talk about preparation before, during, and after. We talk about building networks as well, social networks, business networks, associations, and government. And about the importance of partnering. And this is a formula I've been using for at least 20 years, I think. The right people, the right tools, and the right plan. And it's still very relevant today. You have to create a win-win situation, but it's those 3 components. And this is an example of a template that I'd be happy to share with you if you think that is worthwhile for you to use in your businesses. I'm thinking that this kind of program is relevant for chambers of commerce, for women entrepreneurship organizations, for export promotion bureaus, and certainly for the exporters themselves. So at the end, and I've just got a few more slides, at the end what we end up with is the participants have a plan of action, and this is a template, a tool that we use, and we found that it's so much easier. Instead of saying, let's develop an export plan together, it's basically, let's fill in the blanks together. Many of the companies I worked with did not have any idea what a business plan was, and even less what an export plan was. So if we give them the template and show them something that's already been completed, it's much, much easier for them to complete it. So again, through a Train the Trainer program, training and coaching, and then with the result being the export plan. So jumping to another continent now, what I'm currently working on is a coaching program in the Caribbean in collaboration with the St. Lucia Coalition of Service Industries. So if you remember, it's about exporting services as well as products. So right now we're coaching 20 companies in the export of services, and they're just in the process now of entering another market. And I'd like to introduce to you briefly Mrs. Tekla Detreville. Tekla, if you would stand up and wave. There she is in the back. So Tekla is actually going through this coaching right now, and she'll be a speaker, or actually the moderator at the next panel. So I'd encourage you to see if you can talk with her later today or tomorrow and just see about her experiences in taking that methodical approach in terms of preparing to export. And this is the roadmap that we're using. We've modified it for services. And actually, the government of St. Lucia wants to take this roadmap and change the way that they're supporting exporters. So they said, we love the structure, it works for us. So again, it's that multiplier effect that so many people talked about this morning. This is a photo that I took at 1 a.m. about 2 weeks ago. Remember I spoke about Indonesia? Well, they are very attached to us now, even though the project's been over for about 2 years. And because of webinars and online technology, they ask me every 3 months or so if I would do a webinar for them. And they've got about 30 participants there who continue to learn about exporting. Well, this session started at 11 a.m. and finished at 2 a.m. Unfortunately, they're on the other side of the time zone, but they're so enthusiastic, and it's great to see them continue to build on their program. And so I'm delivering my webinar in English, and the lead trainer there is interpreting as we go. So I think that's why it takes 3 hours. So I would encourage you to look at webinar technology as well, to get connected to other parts of the world. It makes such a difference to be able to, actually coaching works very well as well online. We use Skype Premium because you can share documents with Skype Premium, and it costs nothing. So I'll just wrap up now, but a bit of final advice. Just generally speaking, on helping companies in your countries to become export ready is for all of you, the exporters and the intermediary organizations, become active and partner with key organizations. And I think CC Africa and CABWA that you'll hear from later are great organizations to get connected with. Build strong networks within your country. I can't overemphasize this point because it's difficult for donor agencies to work with 1 or 2 small organizations. If they see that there's a critical mass to work with, they're more encouraged to support projects. Be specific about goals and objectives, and that works for either intermediary organizations or for businesses, because you'll find that people are better able to help you if you can be specific. Focus on implementation, using tools like technology, using templates, coaching, online platforms, and especially focus on results. What happens at the end of this intervention or of this conference or of whatever it is you're working on? What difference have we made? So I'll leave it at that, and there's my email address. I think all the presentations are being shared. Thank you very much.